Allergies.
Hey y'all, we live. What's up?
Good evening.
How's
Good
everybody
evening,
doing?
everybody.
Evening.
Hello.
Wagwan, as a Jamaican say. What's going on?
What's going on?
Wagwan, yes. So
Wagwan.
Wagwan, no.
Wagwan.
No.
What the guan?
Yes.
It's all right.
Guan?
That's all right. That's all right. Stop.
She sounds like what's going on?
That sound like I was speaking in tongues.
As a matter of fact, that used to be an idiom that was used in our culture back in the day. Older people would say, "Guan over to the store for me. Go on over."
Mm.
Or I'm blind. That was very common back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was. Would you say it was cocky?
Common.
Oh, cocky.
What's wrong with us tonight?
My sheep don't know my voice. That's for sure.
There was some quick thinking, Bishop.
Right. Well, good.
So that was some quick thinking.
Yeah.
That was a quick retort.
Yes. Well, good evening, everybody. Y'all come on the SoundMind Panel.
Good evening.
Y'all please share as much as you can as we talk about some things that will help your mental and emotional health. But we'd ask you all to please share if you can. Of course, during the discussion, please post your questions. Maya is behind the scenes. She's going to collect them. And we'll get to them as we see fit. This might be part one of we might do this as first part and finish it next month, depending on how much we get done tonight. But we're so excited to be on. Hey, Alexandra and Arabia. Of course, Pastor Nick. We have Pastor Rich White, Bishop Evans, Reverend Tiffany Smith, and Pastor Prescott. I just noticed you got your hair changed from this morning, Pastor. Oh, okay.
Focus.
Good evening, everybody.
You didn't catch the hint.
What's up, my leader? Hey, Shonda.
And style change.
Yeah, style. She had a tape tonight. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right, Bishop. You are right, Bishop. Thank you.
Pastor Rich, don't shake your head. Don't join in.
And she went right before we got on the air too. So
it's my normal
fresh.
Thursday.
Yes.
I bet you when you all were asking about availability, that I can do it on Thursday, not any Thursday, but this one.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the deal. I've been working with these people over 20 some years now.
Right.
Incorrigible.
Right. So y'all come on in. We got some hot stuff we're going to talk about this evening.
Yes.
I think it's going to be very good. Tonight, we want to focus on, we kind of got in this discussion on Monday afternoon for Maximize Monday, but I want to see if we can further it. And we talked about it a little bit last night at the end of Bible study, is two parts. Really, a lot of people want to be successful, but they don't consider the emotional and mental state that you need to succeed and thrive. A lot of people break under the pressure because they don't consider the responsibilities, the stress, the ups and downs, and all those things that come with leadership. We kind of think, once I be successful, get a lot of money, be an executive, start my own business, it's going to be great until ministry, till the pressure sets in, and then you kind of have to adjust and learn how to manage all of that. So I kind of want to take it from two parts. The first part is the climb to success, which comes with its own sets of pressure. The second part is once you hit a successful place, if we can call it that, how do you, the pressure to sustain and the pressure to continue to increase. The premise of that is this. I heard an entertainer say that it's harder to stay successful than it is to climb the ladder to success. The sustaining of it and the continuing to build on your success is actually harder than the climb to get there. So I love the Rocky series, right? Rocky and Rocky 3, Mick's biggest thing with Rocky was, he said, one of the worst things that can happen to a boxer is when a boxer gets civilized. And if you see Rocky 3, Mick was like, yo, when you were climbing to success, you had this grit about you, you had this fight about you. And once you became champion, all of a sudden you got relaxed and eventually you lost. Because his whole premise was, you know, and you see it with a lot of successful people, as they're grinding to get somewhere, there's this drive they have. And then once they get there, they kind of just lay low. So I know I said a lot right there, but I want us to be able to attack this whole premise of emotional and mental stability and strength on the climb to success. But also, once you reach a certain place of it, how do you sustain and how do you continue to build? Hope all that makes sense. That was a lot all at one time. So let me throw it to Bishop. So Bishop, you started businesses before you started pastoring. Of course, you've been pastoring for a long time. Can you kind of go over some of the tips that you can give somebody on their climb to building a business, being in ministry, being a manager for the first time? What are those emotional and psychological things you would tell somebody who's just getting started?
Well, I appreciate you all inviting me to participate in this. I really believe, especially for Christians over the last 30 years, we do not consider the full ramifications of what it means to be self-employed. Most people that I have met during the last 30 years in the body of Christ cannot manage the liberty of being self-employed. They cannot be their own overseer. So they can't self-govern. In order to be a business person, to be successful, you must be able to self-govern. I put it like this. You have to go to work self-employed, like you're punching a clock at somebody else's door. And then you have to understand that most people are they don't conceive of the sacrifice it takes in the building phase. The maintenance phase, you may work, you know, back in the day, I can recall working 110 hours a week starting a business. And then after it got running well, working 30 to 40 hours. It's janitorial. It's not a hard thing to do. It's not so much personnel, but it is personnel heavy. I saw a lot of guys starting a business but not want to make those sacrifices on the front end. In corporate life, two or three things happen. Rich, you can help me with this. Number one, most of us are not ready for the corporate wars. Number two, most of us are looking for mercy in the corporate environment, and there is none. People are looking to be treated fairly, and that's not how it works. So it's going into an environment full of dreams, and then there's a harsh reality that hits you right in the face as soon as you walk through the door. And you learn that your talent alone is not enough. You've got to be able to build relationships. And for people of color and women, you have to have a business or a position that is measured by numbers. If it is subjectively measured, you're going to have a more difficult road. So all of that coming in is that the 8-hour day myth must go out the window. Almost married to the new position is what it is. The first people that are going to not understand that are the people closest to you. The people that have never been involved in an entrepreneurial atmosphere don't understand what it takes to be successful. And then once you do get there, there are different pressures, but the pressures remain because now you have a target on your back. And if you're in a corporate environment, people are ready to take a position. If you're in a business environment, people are ready to take your customer. So it shifts. It's almost like some people want a handout when they start. They want a wilderness type existence. And some people are shocked because the promised land requires so much work. So it's an amazing dynamic. I think what discourages people is the loss of what we traditionally call me time. It is not until, and I keep using kingdom illustrations, it is not until what you carry becomes inseparable from you, like Christ and his cross, that you're really ready to be a success. Even after he laid it down, he's still known for it. So that's the relationship you have with what you're trying to build. And it's difficult to find people, especially people close to you, that understand that unless they're doing it also. Like I understand Rich and his travel. I understood what he had to do to get where he is today. Because in corporate life, especially for African Americans, you have to do that. For women, you have to do that. You know, so it's not a giving up of identity. It's accomplishing, it's playing ball on the field in which you've chosen to play. I'll shut up.
Pastor Rich, you want to chime in on that?
I can never and will never be able to follow the bishop. So that's unfair at best. But everything he said is right. You know, I'm a corporate guy, so I haven't had the opportunity to be in business for myself. But that being said, having been in corporate America for so long, the businesses that I've had or have been entrusted with to run, it's like running your own business, except that, you know, the man can tell you to leave. But as the bishop says, you know, the numbers, the data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. So if you're hitting your numbers, nobody can say you're not doing your job. But what I've found in corporate America is that you find, well, not even in corporate America, but in life, a few people that are successful spiritually, personally, relationally, and work-wise. You know, somebody may be great at work, but their life is a mess. Somebody be a very spiritual person, but they can't go to work. And, you know, I've always strove to be able to be successful at all four. The last one, work, it's always been pretty easy. I've failed miserably in all the other ones at times in my life. So it depends on the person and the dynamic of the person. But it's difficult, but you have to put in the work, as Bishop said. Yeah. You have to be true to yourself. You have to know, particularly as Bishop said, if you're a person of color or a woman, if you're a woman and you're very aggressive, like your majority white counterpart, you're going to be termed a B. If you're aggressive as a person of color like me and dark skin, you're going to be termed an angry black. You know, so you have to be able to walk that line. My dad used to call it learning the dance. You have to learn the corporate dance, or you have to learn the entrepreneurial dance. So that you'll know when to step front, when to step back, when to step to the side, and when to turn around. And once you learn that dance, it allows you to migrate, and it makes it gets easier as you go along because you know the game. It's just like as you said, Bishop. You know, whether it's just like athletics. There's always somebody if you're going to drop the ball, if you're going to not hit the shot, there's always somebody else that's going to be ready to come in the game and take your spot. Yeah. There's always a ram in the bush waiting for your spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't think that you the end all be all. Nope. There's somebody right there waiting to come in and take your spot.
Made in the cut.
You know, so you got to always be prepared. But you know, again, spiritually, personally, relationally, and work-wise, you find very few people that are able to do all four of those very well, and that's what I've always striven to try to do.
Rich, did you find one of the things I found, especially in banking, was that your skill set was important, but your ability to discern the flow of power and your ability to form relationships that were influential were key. Because many times you don't get an angel when you walk in the door.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right, Bishop. And you and I have talked about this before. You know, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the most well-rounded, but you're not gonna work harder than me. You know, I will work.
Right.
You know, and
right.
work perseverance, and as
Right.
Bishop said, knowing how to build relationships and perseverance will get you a long, long way, a lot further than just plain intellect. So I agree with you, Bishop.
Yeah. And I think once you start building the relationships, what happens is the emotional stress of business or corporate life usually comes from not understanding how things work. So you can't make a balanced emotional, intellectual decision why something happened this particular day.
Mm-hmm.
And many times as females in the workplace, and I managed a lot of females coming up through corporate life, ladies are almost asked to change their identity.
Mm-hmm.
And some do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's asking too much. And I think that's giving up too much when you're willing to let go of who you are to fit into the environment. I think if you have to let go of your identity, you're in the wrong environment.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
So speaking of, actually, Bishop, that was go ahead, Pastor P. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to say that I think a lot of people don't count the cost, obviously, of all the things you and Pastor Rich both said. But then I think what is also woefully lacking is mentorship. Like people just don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you get involved in it, when you get there, you just you're winging it because you just don't know. You don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Most environments are not teaching environments.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm talking about having a mentor, not so much in the corporation even, but just a mentor that kind of everything you said to kind of walk you through those things.
And that's what I'm
Help
talking
you do those things. Mm-hmm.
Most environments, you're saying mentoring, I'm saying teachers.
Gotcha.
Mentors teach you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
show you the ropes, talk
Mm-hmm.
very clearly to you. Most corporate environments, you have a hard time finding a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it difficult to find them outside the environment. But the problem is if you have a mentor who doesn't have familiarity with your flow or where you are or what you're doing, that mentor has very limited ability to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rich, to me, each environment has its uniqueness. And each environment that I worked in had its own landmines. So you needed somebody not only familiar with the culture, but familiar with the landmines also. Because you didn't get many chances to fail.
Yeah, you're right, Bishop. And that mentor thing, Pastor P, is important, but it's a two-way street. The mentor has to want to mentor the mentee. You may want a mentor, but there may not be anybody there to mentor you. Like Bishop talks about the white Jewish guy, I think it was, Bishop, that you had when you were in banking that took a liking to you.
Yep.
Or I can talk about a PhD chemist that first, took a liking to me and made sure that I knew that I belonged there. I wasn't a mistake, that I'd gone to school, I studied, I belonged there. But but if you don't have a mentor, what do?
Mm-hmm.
You look, you watch, and you copy.
Right. You got to discern the environment.
You look and see what other folks are doing that's successful, and you copy.
Right.
I think one of the disturbing things I found was that when you go to your non-corporate or non-business environmental friends to tell them about the quote-unquote injustices or difficulties, they actually don't believe you from the beginning. They think you're overreacting, think you're making it up. People can't be that bad. It can't be that persecutorial. And so you find yourself feeling as though you have no one to talk to, and the no one is among your family and normal circle of friends. Which means an entirely different realm of relationships have to be built. But then you find out that you don't know who to talk to in the environment that you're in. So you become very guarded, and find that when that guardedness happens is when self-discovery happens.
Can you explain that?
What happens when it's, as long as we think it's injustice going on, as long as we think that they're trying to destroy me, as long as we think those things, and we're looking for help outside of us, what you can do remains undiscovered.
Okay.
It is only under the pressure of performing and apparently no help. And even Christians say they have no help, even though they say they have God.
Yeah.
It's then you start to discover really what you're capable of.
Yeah.
You know, I worked a bank job. I was a vice president, corporate lending. I arrived at work at 6:30 in the morning because I realized I didn't know as much as my peers. I started that as a credit analyst and kept that habit. I'd get to the bank 6:30, 7 o'clock at the latest in the morning. I'd leave at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening because I literally had to. I didn't have the opportunity to be relaxed during the workday. And I had to make sure that I was there late to make sure no hanky-panky was going on with my stuff after I left. So it was a very intense, like 10 years, every day for 10 years. But there was only 6 black guys in the country that were vice presidents of commercial lending in the banking industry at the time.
Wow.
So we were looking for each other at the national meetings, like, where you been, man? But the reality is there's that pressure, and a lot of us want the dream, but have not considered the pressures that go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people want friends, and leadership is lonely. Everybody on the phone right now knows. Everybody on this call right now knows it. When you are striving and leading and doing what you have to do, it's not about friends. It's about getting the job done, And it can be a very lonely but fulfilling experience. That doesn't mean you don't have relationships and acquaintances, but it still is. It's a lonely road, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing, so to speak. But it's not. You may have a team of folks, and you trust your team to do their job, and that's what their job is. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. If there's something wrong, if there's something wrong with any of us on the phone, folks are gonna look at us. They're not gonna look at the team because we're supposed to lead the team, and you have to be able to embrace that and say that's okay, and then be able to run with that and not think that and not look at that as a hindrance or why me or how come nobody. You can't have the pity party and be thinking about how come I'm doing this all alone. It's okay. But leadership certainly is can be a lonely thing, particularly when, as Bishop knows, I've been blessed to travel a lot of places, and when you're the guy and you're there and there's nobody else sitting up front with you, right? You're the only one there. You go and take a group of folks out to dinner, and the last person they think is going to get the check is you, and you're the one paying for everything. It's it's because of the assumptions that are made. Because when you're a person of color or a woman, a lot of times they don't see you. You're there, but they don't see you. And some folks need to make their presence known, and other of us don't have to do that. Don't feel the need to do that. But it's part of the grind, and we should all be prepared for that.
I think one of the things that I saw is that you can't let the harshness of your developmental years cause you to mismanage your development years. In other words, I've always brought other people along with me. And one of the reasons I did that was because I didn't have help for so long. I know there are times when people get tired of teaching conversations, but contextually, those are your teaching moments, your mentoring moments, when you can share your experience with a person that's doing the same thing you're doing. And but I know some people who their developmental years were so harsh, they stopped helping other people. So once I got to the point where I could help, and that's been since about 28 years old in corporate life, church life, business life. I've always thought that I had an obligation to help others because help was so unavailable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch the cycle repeat itself once I started pastoring was kind of alarming to me.
Yeah.
Because I thought there would be plenty of mentors.
Yeah.
But we often compete as if there's only one slice of the pie and you have it already.
Mm-hmm.
So people are unwilling to help. We compete as though there's a very small shelf for success. And there's only a few spaces on that shelf.
Mm.
So so people feel like to help someone is to threaten their own security.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I throw this, since we're talking about help and learning, I've learned from me, the more responsibility I have, the further I go in ministry, the more time I have to spend studying and learning to build in that, to help my emotional and psychological side.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because success, a lot of people don't think about this. As you said, success is a revealer too. It reveals what you can do, and it reveals your insecurities, your flaws, your hang-ups. And I've learned over the past few years, like certain music I can't listen to like I used to. You know, certain you just can't tolerate it like you used to. I'm getting really saved, y'all. You just can't tolerate it like you used to. You know, right. But what would you guys say about that? The need to grow, reading, listening to stuff. How much more time do you have to put in to your education and feeding yourself?
He froze.
I think that if you see purpose as a destination, you will minimize the need for continual learning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're back.
Right.
Y'all good?
Right.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah.
You were frozen.
If you have an arrival mentality,
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
I think you will cease to think you need to learn.
Yeah.
But if you're real about the fact that if your environment is not changing, you need to be changing in your environment.
Mm-hmm.
You need to mature in your own environment. Because once again, a lack of enthusiasm, I believe, is a lack of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to chime in on the education part? Because I know, because ministry is a revealer. Business is a revealer. The call exposes what's wrong with you too, so you can work on it.
Yes, it does.
Every major biblical character fell, not because their gifting or their anointing, because there's a character flaw in them. Some area they didn't develop and grow in that got the best of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes business ministry, like a lot of us, the reason why we kind of get stuck is that fear paralysis too. Of I'm trying really hard to be successful, but they underestimate the criticism, the public failures, the ways in which it's easy to get set back. And when you're trying and to be successful, you have to be willing to fail. So you have to try, you have to do trial and error, you have to work out relationships, you have to work on finances, you have to work on your self-esteem, your commitment, your discipline, and all of those things. And some people, they can do a few of those things, but not others, and they all have to marry. And I think that's where people struggle is you can't be successful with you can't be unsuccessful with your finances, but be good with relationships. They all have to come together. And for some people, they get too scared to address the parts where they're weak because of their own feelings of inadequacies, and that just keeps them stuck. And there is no way in relationships and business to not work on all of those things. And so education on things that you're not strong in is important. Like, I hate math. I hate it, okay? With a passion. But I have to do it every day now, and it bugs me, but you got to do it. Right? You got to do it. You got to get over your fears, your intimidation, your all those things that get in your way of moving forward, because that is going to keep you progressing. You have to.
That's so good. That's so good, Reverend Tiff. You know, everything you just said about staying in that constant state of moving forward. You know, Bishop said something Sunday, I think it was, at the last service. He said, you know, Satan is trying to keep us in a place of immaturity. So as Pastor Nick said, if we're not always growing, we're going to be in that place of immaturity. If we feel like we've arrived, we're going to be in that place of immaturity because there's always more. So when I think about work, for instance, there's only 3 things I want to be able to do. I want to immediately add value and consistently add value. I want to develop people and I want to learn. If I'm not doing those 3 things in my daily work, then I need to go do something else.
Right.
Add value, develop people, and learn. If I'm not learning something, then I shouldn't be there, right? I need to go somewhere else. And so to be able to do all those things at the same time, it's like work, worship, and wait. We should be able to do all those 3 things at the same time.
Right.
And being able to add value, learn, and develop people at the same time is one of the things that has worked for me in my work.
I think you have to keep pushing yourself no matter what level you think you're at. Because I think average is celebrated and it's easy just to settle into average. So I think you have to be really intentional about pushing yourself to grow, especially in areas where you are weak in, that may, kind of not help you with whatever you're doing. Yeah. So I think most of us have to I think you have to be objective about yourself.
And I also think that a lot of times we have a naive view of our environment. And we're not totally aware of our environment constantly changing. And we decide to settle into a certain personality. Don't leave ourselves open to being stimulated by the environment that we're in to learn more, to do more, to change. I think you have to have a mindset where you're going to reinvent yourself. A lot of the pressure comes from not wanting to grow with the environment that you're in. And emotionally, you will try to bring an organization back to where you are. Instead of being liberated and grow to where the organization or business you're involved in is going. I've seen a lot of people lose a career because they didn't like the versatility or the mobility or the velocity at which an organization was growing.
It's something you said a long time ago. The institution always wins.
Absolutely.
I just told somebody that they'll fire you and find somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they're not going to change their whole entire institution for one person.
Yeah.
We might be unique.
Yeah.
We might be special and we're not unique.
Right.
There are other unique people too, other people gifted, Records are made to be broken. That means they're record breakers coming up right
That's
after.
right.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out there. I heard Will Smith said this last year, I think. He basically said you cannot out-succeed your wounds. He said, I was making all this money, the biggest movie star, but he said internally I was still broken. I was still that little boy afraid of rejection.
Wow.
And he admitted on the Fresh Prince that his insecurities got in the way and messed up somebody else's career, the first handful, because he could not allow his wounds from his childhood was continuing to sabotage. So he's like, and the one thing I really got from that is you cannot outrun yourself. No matter how much money you make, no matter how much popularity you have, your wounds are going to come up and you're going to have to deal with them. And I think a lot of people think, well, once I get successful, have a lot of money, I'm going to be good. But you're successful and you're depressed, you got money and you're sad all day. I want to throw that out there because a lot of people that are wealthy, they're miserable. Some are suicidal because they were using their success to compensate for their inner brokenness.
They actually thought that the success was going to heal them.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
All the success does, if you're insecure, your success is going to intensify your insecurity.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So emotionally, if your aspiration does not reveal your dysfunction or not inspire movement towards healing that dysfunction, you will self-destruct as you get more and more successful. It's you have to. Part of God's plan for us is the blessing reveals your struggles.
Yes.
but there, you know, it's the whatever your thorn is, the grace that you have gives you the power to defeat it every day or to overcome it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not willing to admit that it needs to be, you need that victory every day, then you'll start to force people around you who are under your authority to mold themselves to whatever your dysfunction is.
Right, right.
Right.
So you'll see whole departments of people adopt the
Yep.
mania of their boss.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people, and I think this is going to help emotionally, most people cannot connect the dots back to the incident that causes them to behave in the way they behave right now.
Yeah.
If you can connect the dots,
Mm.
then you find the cause.
Yeah.
And if it's been too long, and I've said this 100 times, if it's been too long, you know you've got an issue, and you it's been 20 years, you really don't know what you were thinking. Just look at what you were doing. It'll tell you what you were thinking at the time.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And most time what we do is avoid looking at what we were doing because it may not fit in our concept of ourselves right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So this emotional thing is something we all bring.
Yep.
And depending on the environment you come from, whether it's more intense or less intense,
Mm-hmm.
but you can come from privilege and still be ill-equipped for success.
Right.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because
true.
Because you expect it. Or you can come from disadvantage and as you're striving, think you'll never make it.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those have to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that most people can do that kind of inner work on their own?
I found no. I
Yeah.
think it's a learned skill to be significantly and productively self-reflective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
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 absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And then I think because it's such hard work, people are like, nah, I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
They don't do it.
I'm good right here. It's too much work.
But we all know that the way of progress is neither swift or easy, right?
Right.
We've talked and learned about process years after year after year. It's not going to be swift. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I tell folks all the time, hard work, guess what? Hard work is hard. That's why they
Yeah.
call it hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people ought to understand that as you strive to be successful, one emotional dilemmas is losing relationships you thought would be there with you when you got to
Yeah.
know them.
Mm-hmm.
But once you understand that motion always creates friction,
Mhm.
then you'll understand that there are going to be some people who preached the message for us. Darryl Brister, he said, you have people for a season,
A
A
reason.
reason. A reason or a
for a
lifetime.
lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is not knowing which one of those relationships is which at the time.
Yeah.
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 Yep. I've learned when I counsel people a lot, they're afraid to approach those sensitive areas
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to feel what they should have felt 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And my premise to them is you'll never get over this until you allow yourself to feel, do the work to feel, to cry the tears you should have cried 25 years ago, to go through that process of healing. They want something quick. Yeah, they don't want to connect. They want something quick rather than it's like, and they tell you, I don't want to feel that pain. But I'm like,
Yep.
your path to healing is going through that process of the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God can't deliver you from something that you're unwilling to acknowledge, something you're unwilling to actually face. And I think we've learned suppression and not management and deliverance.
I agree with you. I think that people think that to look back and analyze, you don't have to go back and relive.
Yeah.
But you do have to have the courage to look at it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And a lot of folks don't want to look at it for fear of having the 100% of that pain return.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And at times that has happened for a few people that I've counseled over the last 30 years, but most often you can get them to look back without going back.
Mm-hmm.
So you can start to be delivered. Because really what happens, you don't get delivered from the incident.
Mhm.
Delivered from the influence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you can manage the emotion in your present situation.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because I
Right.
think people don't understand that not addressing it is only recreating the narrative anyway. So you avoiding it
Yeah.
is not helping. All you're doing is continuing the cycle anyway, as opposed to realizing that even though it's hard to look at it, that's the healing power.
Mhm.
Being able to look at it, deal with the discomfort, and then move on. But avoiding it, that is the quickest way to just keep the cycle of a narrative
Yep.
going, is not helpful. And I wish people will understand that if you want to be successful, you have to address your past.
Mhm.
So, example, I had a young lady in counseling, and she had an incident at work where she was written up, and she said, all I said to the lady was, "Have a great weekend." And I said, "How did you say it?" She said, "I said, have a great weekend." I said, "How did you say it?" She said, "Okay, have a great weekend." She said, "Well, I may have said it like that, but that's different."
Right.
You didn't say have a great weekend. You said have a great weekend. And so she had to realize, so you're bringing your personal issues into your office work and your work.
Mhm.
And you're recreating this issue with anger and you're not realizing it. That's why we have to do the work, because she's another person that's afraid to address the issues. So you're seeing it now in different areas of your life. It's not worth it. You got to work on it. If anybody wants to be successful, you got to address those issues.
I agree with you. I think one of the hardest things for people to do is to identify what kind of common denominator they are.
Yes.
I talk to a lot of people that, everywhere they go, there's a problem with the people.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And, you finally ask them, what is the only constant in all those situations?
You.
And they stay as far away from that admission as possible,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the hardest thing for them to do, the easiest thing for them to do, is have no accountability and no responsibility for their participation in the environments that they enter.
Right.
So they walk around with this emotional chip, actually going into every employment or relational situation ready to sabotage it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's always everybody else's fault.
Yes.
You had 9 jobs and 3 businesses and none of them worked. And it's always the people, the people, the people, the people, the people.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask yourself, what kind of common denominator am I?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where does that spirit of irresponsibility come from? Because I've seen it many times when just as you said, Bishop and Reverend Tiffany, that folks just say it's not me.
Now, I think, and Tiff, you can tell me I'm wrong about this.
I won't.
A lot of what I've seen has been cultivated by various family environments.
Yep.
You get used to a family coddling your dysfunction,
Mhm.
and you automatically think, or you don't think, you just feel
Mhm.
like everyone you're around should coddle those same dysfunctions.
Mhm.
And the reality is, in the environment we're in, most people are too tired
Yeah.
Yep.
issue.
Mm-hmm.
So they say nothing, but to a person that's challenged emotionally, saying
That's
nothing is the worst
that's the
thing you
worst thing. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
perpetuates a negative emotion.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You got to have somebody that loves you enough to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's a
We-
family dynamic.
You
Yeah.
got to love them enough to hear it.
Right.
Right. Right. So we all have people in our family that we say that's just how they are, and they go through life and nobody ever confronts it. So we're partly responsible for them being like they are because we've never challenged them on it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like the family dynamic is a lack of accountability. So
Yep.
sometimes it's just everybody in the family has a problem with communicating. And then now you sending she all to work thinking that she don't have an attitude problem, but everybody in the house got an attitude problem. So now she don't know how to identify that this is not normal. Right.
Right.
Or this is not
Yeah.
acceptable. This is not acceptable behavior. And so
Mhm.
until you go to work and then your boss says, that's rude. What? This is how we talk to each other all the time,
Right.
And
Culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pitiful because not only is that an issue for the individual corporately or business, but if you're not careful, that thing, and help me out with this, Tiffany, can become a strong emotional issue when you get to be about 40 to 50 and you're unable to adjust yourself to fit, and I've seen a lot of people who we called strange when they were younger, get to be 40 to 50, and we find out it's untreated schizophrenia,
Yep.
untreated bipolar, untreated personality disorder.
Yeah.
And what their friends and family have done is nurture that thing.
Yep.
And the problem for people is that when they're emotionally challenged like that, they try to recruit or disciple the people around them.
Yeah.
To make the people around them think that what they're feeling and doing is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Your correction is abnormal.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the people in the work environment, they don't have to put up with that,
No.
No.
and they're not going to put up with it.
Yeah.
And they can't stay anywhere.
Yeah.
But then they come home and the family says they just don't understand you, or they're
Oh
not.
my goodness.
Yeah.
They don't like you. They're not paid to like you.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
The institution doesn't change because you walk in the door.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I try to tell a lot of the young people this. They feel like because they feel a certain way, everybody has to adjust. You're seeing it a little more now, adjust to them and their sensitivities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I get we should, some heinous things the world needs to adjust and make changes to, like misogyny, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But they literally feel like I should be able to come in here. I have a degree, I have no work experience, and y'all should pay me $50,000 a year because, like, they were arguing over the whole internship thing.
Because
Like,
they want to get paid for going to school.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Not
it's
for
like,
experience.
not for experience, not for
Mhm.
experience, and nobody's paying. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bishop.
No, I think part of the church's responsibility
Mhm.
is to prepare people how to function in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I find a lot of this generation now, they're rejecting that preparation because it doesn't fit with their idea of how things should be.
Right.
Mhm.
But then they go out and try to start businesses or try to get corporate positions. And it's always, I don't need to work for anybody. I need to start my own business. That is a very revealing statement.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Very revealing.
Mhm.
So you could not be successful in structure and expectation. But
Wow.
but you
Right.
think if you start a business, there will be no structure and be no expectation.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
So,
There won't be if you fail.
Yep.
so you couldn't follow how you gonna lead.
That's right.
Mhm.
Because the crazy thing is they want to hire an employee and want that employee to be to them what they refuse to be
Absolutely.
To other body.
somebody
That's
else.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's an emotional problem with the leader.
Mhm.
So, it's time went by fast. We got about 10 minutes left. Bishop, I want to throw this at you and just kind of see where we can take this. I was watching the Michael Jordan documentary, right?
Which one?
The one that ESPN did when they did this whole thing.
Yeah. Last Dance.
Really good.
Yeah.
But
I like
his competitive drive borderlined on somewhat insanity.
something's wrong with Michael Jordan.
And to me, it was like, and you've seen a lot of successful people do this in business or whatever. They use offense and wounds to drive them to success,
Mhm.
but they're never happy. They're never fulfilled.
Mhm.
To me, being driven by fear, wounds, I'm gonna show the world that
I'm the best.
I'm the best. Y'all make me feel bad.
Motivation.
That can only
Mhm.
that motivation can only take you but so far,
Right.
and then you fall flat, and you're miserable still.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use negative energy to drive them to success, and then they're miserable for the rest of their lives. Like, I know you talk to a lot of successful people, Bishop, but
Yeah.
some people find, like Mike Tyson, find motivation in that anger.
Well, they created an offense to drive it.
Okay.
The problem is, if that's what drives you, you have to keep creating offenses.
Yeah.
And when you keep creating offenses, you're actually living in a world that's not real.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point, like I would have been, if I had been, I hope if I had been Michael Jordan and they start calling me Black Jesus, I would have rejected that.
Yeah. Right.
But that just showed me how badly he needed to have affirmation and confirmation that he was the best. It wasn't enough for him to know he was the best. He needed to be, he needed to be feared and all this other stuff that he had going on. The documentary, to me, didn't reveal a lot about basketball. What it did, it revealed a lot about him and the way he's motivated himself. And yes, he is driven by initial rejection. But now he's offended when he's not treated like a king. Like everybody's supposed to speak to him if they walk through a restaurant. Well, no. And I'm gonna make you pay if you don't.
Wow.
Yeah. In the one part where it said he made up an offense just out of nowhere, just to motivate him to play a game. It didn't really happen. He made it up in his mind.
That became the truth for that night.
Yeah. And he played great. I think one of the greatest of all time, but his teammates hated him. They couldn't stand him, but you see a lot of people in corporate world doing the same thing, it's crazy. They're being successful to prove to somebody else I can be successful.
Yeah.
And then when they're successful, it's like, now I made it without you. And the person's like, okay. And
I don't care.
I don't care.
I find it really revealing that you can be considered the greatest at anything. And at the same time, those people that are calling you great think you're a horrible person.
Yeah. Yep.
Then we're back to principle. What does it profit a man?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Gain the whole world and lose who he is.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Now, if we're going to throw a log on the fire and keep it real, let's be real here. Some of gospel music and some Black teaching that focuses so much on your enemies, your haters, and we're going to prove them wrong. And we're trying to use God and being blessed, being fueled by proving our haters wrong.
That's so true.
And people shouting in church over it.
Absolutely.
Gospel blues.
Why are you trying to be successful spiritually to prove your haters wrong? What about pleasing God and taking care of people?
Well, I can still remember the expressions from people that sat in my office and said to me, all these people hating on me. I can still see the expression after I gave them the answer. Why do you think all these people are hating me? I hate to break it to you, but ain't nobody thinking about you. What you have done is create a cloud of witnesses that are against you.
Yeah.
To make you feel valid as a human being.
Yep.
Because even though the attention is negative, it's attention.
Right.
That's right.
So true.
Yep. And I think that type of preaching, hip hop culture influence the preaching and not the word of God.
Absolutely.
That's so completely opposite of how God teaches about how to deal with your enemies.
That's right.
Exactly.
Have you ever noticed if you backslide for a minute while you're preaching and you say something like everybody's jealous, 3/4 of the church will exclaim,
It goes off. Looking all around the room for the haters.
There's an insecurity.
Yep.
Yeah. Ain't nobody think about you.
It has to
Maybe
be.
two people.
Yeah.
And there's a negative competitiveness that has to be addressed.
Yep. Yeah. And like you hear people
compete and help each other at the same time.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Like you hear preaching like, you don't like my hair, wait till you see me next week. I'm gonna come in and like, what does that have to do with Jesus, the gospel? Like, why are our haters? People can motivate you, but I'm sorry.
Social media has created a group of self-worshiping idols like I've never seen before in my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can be anything you want to be on social media.
Absolutely. And you've got people putting their pictures on social media, and they're not natural pictures of them. They're after they've touched them up. Then they put the chiseled look on you, perfect look on you. And then walk around with this false image, which births false confidence, which births what I call a mania.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you know what people are seeing is not what you really think you look like.
Yep. I asked somebody, like, so what happens when somebody sees the real you outside of the filters? And all like, what are you going to do? Like literally, like, well, I'm just going to keep making sure I'm all glammed up so nobody sees me that way. Somebody is going to see you like this.
Eventually, you're going to take it off.
Pressure. The pressure is trying to maintain that facade all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're not as, because we're in the culture that we're in, most people will receive a false image.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They never get to know you. So you build an image that interacts well with the people that you're around all day. They never get to know who the real you is.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And then true.
Time always peels the skin off a human being.
Absolutely.
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 Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow. We did have a question. We got like 2 minutes left. Somebody asked about basically there are people who say everyone should be an entrepreneur. And she was wondering, how does this make sense? Everybody's not.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
And because like we said earlier, most people cannot manage the liberty of being self-employed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Show me a failure in business, and I'll show you someone that thought being self-employed thought you could get up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And just tell their secretary, cancel all my appointments that day. I'm going shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to play golf. Watch this. What they miss about I'm going to play golf is that people have very important meetings on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when I'm paying $80,000 a year to be a member of that course, I bring guys there to close multi-million-dollar deals.
Yes, sir.
Not going out there just for entertainment in the middle of a work day.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I'm not flying you in my jet from New York to Florida
Mm-hmm.
for any other reason than for you to sign a contract before we land.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But people think they can skip steps. Like they
Yep.
have great passion, but don't want the discipline that comes along with it and the
Doesn't work.
work. And it's work. Like it's work. It's not. So a lot of people want the accolades at the end without the steps in between. Just get me to the end, Lord. That's all I want, Lord. What's my destination? And you can't do it that way. You have to take the steps and go through the process.
Passion for the idea will never replace passion for the work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So true.
I remember one time before this pre kids, we were at a certain restaurant that cost a little money, and the people sitting over for us were talking business like crazy, and their bill was probably high as, because they had the works out there, but they were willing to spend the money to talk business to close on this multi-million-dollar deal. We're sitting there like, yo, these people talking numbers. I mean, but they saw it as an investment. To do that work. So Bishop, you're right. It's not like we're going out to these places just so we can have fun. I'm taking this place because I know I can spend $400 on this meal because I'm bringing in X amount of dollars that's going to pay on comparison to the price of this dinner.
Right.
And the other thing I think that people that have not had that level of business or corporate success, you rarely run into a professional that does not understand the deal in the first 5 or 10 minutes of your conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why it's always good at 5 or 10 minutes in to ask if there are any questions at that point. Because most real professionals, high income people are getting bored with your presentation. You've come ready with a 45-minute presentation. They've got the deal in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So it's good to right at that 5-10 minute mark, say, any questions so far? And they'll say no, because the next part of that conversation is going to be, do I like you? Can I work with you?
Yes, right. That's right. If you can't get it on one page, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And if you give me 45 pages, I'm going to the last page.
Yeah,
you got to do it.
The relationship principle.
That last page.
And I think a lot of times that's where people fail, is their ability to emotionally manage the relationships and build sincerity. I think that's where and that comes from your background again.
That's right.
Because
when you
can't, networking is the wrong word for relationship building.
It's totally different. And the relationship building takes time. Bishop, you've done business in Asia as I have. They don't want to do the deal. They want to know who you are when you first come in there.
Absolutely.
So that any expectation of entitlement is going to get thrown in your face real quick, and you're going to be embarrassed. You have to have some type of, you have to build a relationship and rapport with people, particularly when you're representing your company, they're representing their company, or you're representing your business. They want to know, who am I doing business with?
Yeah. And the flip side on that is that in the conversation, they are sensing sincerity and actual realism. And if you are being nice, experienced people can pick that up. And they'll just say, there was something about him I didn't like.
No, you're so right. People can discern whether you're just a real person or you're just trying to do a deal. I was talking to a guy in Mumbai this morning. First time I ever met him. We're doing this deal. We started the conversation. I said, well, tell me, how's your family doing there in Mumbai? What's going on with the pandemic? He said, wow, thanks for asking that.
They're not used to hearing that.
You know?
And that makes you different doing business with him.
Right, exactly. Change the whole tone of the rest of the conversation.
Absolutely. Now he's ready to hear you now.
Right. As opposed to just jumping right in.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, and there's like this special language. You know, they don't say you're pissing me off. They'll say you're making us very uncomfortable.
Right.
That's code language for shut up. You're about
or can I take this call? And then you're done. I need to take this call.
Oh yeah, no.
It's over.
No. No.
Wow. So it's 8:04. We'll pick this up. We'll do this again next month and do part 2.
Okay.
Because I want to get to the sustained success piece. When you start making some money, business is thriving. How do you maintain? Like for us at the church, I'm sure Bishop can talk a lot about it. Like once we got into this building, the pressure was different than in Summerdale, and all the stuff that came along with being on TV and the international reach.
Make sure we talk about structure and habits, because those are the things that make it
structure and habits. Okay,
successfully navigate transition.
Okay, Pastor P,
structure and habits.
Structure and habits. Okay, good. All right, y'all. Thank you guys for coming out. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This was a good panel. I hope you guys got the advice on business, entrepreneurialism, and we'll pick it up next month. And God bless you all. And don't forget Sunday, 8:00 service, of course, on point, 9:00, all that good stuff. Send us your prayer requests too. Please send us your prayer requests. We're going to be praying over them on Wednesday nights at Bible study. You can send them to social@gotobethany.com. All right, again, that's social@gotobethany.com. And thank you all for joining us. We love you guys. We can't wait to see you in person again. See y'all later.
Bye.
Good night.